So I've been playing a little bit of Blood, Fuel, Ammo, and Speed the last couple of days, and I finished up a hardcore difficulty run, so I figured I'd do a little bit of commentary over it just because I find that kind of fun. Although it probably won't be long, so there's not too much to say. So I'll just do a brief explanation of how the game works. Basically, there's like 4 worlds in this game, and you're going to complete stages to get through each world. Each stage is just going to be you killing demons on platforms. Every time you kill all the demons on a platform, you get an upgrade. You move to a transition area where you can choose between upgrades or healing, and then you move on to the next stage. So this is going to be a hardcore difficulty run, which is the final difficulty you unlock. And the main difference between a hardcore difficulty and the other difficulties are that on the other difficulties, the time down on the bottom right counts down because there's 4 worlds, and on the easier difficulties, every world has 5 minutes. So you want to play through as fast as you can so that you can get as many upgrades as possible, because it doesn't go to the next world until that timer ticks down all the way. On the hardest difficulty, though, every single world only has 2 levels before you have to move on, which greatly limits the amount of upgrades you can get, because you can play pretty slow in the easier difficulties and still get more upgrades than you would get on hardcore. The other difference is that on hardcore difficulty, from the get-go, every single enemy type is going to start spawning, so that's why you're seeing a lot of the really big guys right here, even though this is only the 2nd level of the first world. Every enemy starts spawning immediately on hardcore. So you have 4 stats here. We have blood, fuel, ammo, and speed. Blood is going to be your health. Fuel is going to be the it's going to fuel your slide, your dashes, and your drop slams. And ammo is ammo. Speed is speed. The D diamond is your currency. You get those from killing demons. And the timer basically on the bottom for this difficulty is just going to tell you how fast you're going, or how much time naturally you've taken. And then we've got stuff like damage, fire rate, crit chance, blah blah blah, crit damage. So then we have something called our injector and our rage. So the injector you only get once you've filled up your rage bar, and when you inject, it gives you a heal, it increases some of your ammo, and it is going to increase your crit chance and your crit damage a little bit while the effect is in play. So there's only one weapon that builds up your rage to use the injector, and that's the assault rifle. There's a shotgun, an assault rifle, sniper rifle, and a rocket launcher. You're really only going to mainly see me using the assault rifle and the rocket launcher because the shotgun and sniper don't build up rage, and I'm really playing a very hit and run kind of game where I'm just building up my rage, injecting and then dropping rockets, and then I'm hit and running, injecting, dropping rockets, etc., etc. There's an upgrade actually that lets your injector duration last longer when you've activated it, and I specifically avoid that upgrade because you can only get ammo back by meleeing enemies, and with all the enemies here, you see that if you get caught in the middle of them, they will absolutely destroy you. So my main goal, since the rocket launcher uses the most ammo, is to put myself in a state where I'm constantly just popping the initial inject to get an ammo boost, and then the injector wears off so that I can build it up and then pop it again. So I purposely try to avoid benefits that, quote-unquote benefits, that increase the duration of the injector, because my main purpose for the injector is that initial pop for the boost of health and ammo. And then, of course, there's upgrades like Injector Beta, Injector Alpha that increase the strength of the effect when you are injected. Those are good to get, but duration, I don't go for. When it comes to these other upgrades, I always prioritize damage. If I can find damage, always damage, damage, damage. If there's no damage, the second thing I look for is crit chance. Because we're on the hardest difficulty and we're only going to get a very limited amount of upgrades, I don't really go for crit damage very much, because your crit damage is naturally going to scale up from your base damage. So the more damage you get, the more damage you'll also get when you crit. So generally I look for damage, then I look for crit chance, and after that I look for fire rate or blood, because despite the fact that you get that heal with the injector, it's very hard to just avoid all damage entirely in this game. So you're gonna want to increase your blood stat a bit so that you have a bit more leeway. Of course, if you don't see any damage upgrades or anything like that. Other than that, the other upgrades I usually kind of ignore. Speed, you're going to get a speed boost whenever you inject, so it's not really that big of a deal, especially since you're going to be spending most of your time sliding and ground slamming, so movement speed in general isn't that big of a deal, especially when you can just boost. And that's really all there is to it, to the upgrades. This is the first boss. There's 2 bosses, and this boss is pretty simple. Both of the bosses in this game are pretty simple. You just kind of keep moving, keep boosting, so that you don't sit in one place for too long, and continue to just cycle your injector. Build rage, cycle injector. Build rage, cycle injector. That's all I'm really doing in these boss fights, and then afterwards you clean up all the mobs. You're not really going to see me use the assault rifle or the sniper rifle much, I might have already mentioned, because I use them a little bit here to clean up mobs, but they don't build rage, and they don't do as much damage as the rocket, so I generally don't really use them too often. Yeah, that's really all there is to say about this game. I think that gets the idea of how to play across. If I had to give any tips to anyone who does decide to give this game a try and play it, I think one of the biggest things would be never go airborne and then just do a raw landing, because enemies they have really no startup on their attacks once they are in range to hit you. They will just start immediately wailing on you. So when you do a slam, that launches them airborne, and when you do a slide, that also launches them airborne. So anytime you jump, always do a ground slam, and anytime you need to move across the ground, almost always be sliding. You never want to be running normally across the ground very often, and you never really want to be landing normally, because if you do, you're just going to be vulnerable for enemies. Always slide, always ground slam, and if you're in a big open area like this, make sure you keep doing these boosts that I'm doing constantly so that the enemies can't catch up to you. Then when the boss goes down, you can clean up all the rest of the enemies, and it's a pretty simple encounter from there. The rest of the game basically is just going to play like this through the next couple of worlds. The layout of the levels will change a little bit, and the intensity of the enemies will ramp up, but really, it's really just the same thing from here. I've seen one video about this game, because it's a relatively new game. It came like a month ago. I've seen one other video about this game, and it's a speed run running normal difficulty, and that seems like it wouldn't be the difficulty you would run, because like I said earlier, when you play on the easier difficulties, every world has to last 5 minutes. You are on a time limit to see how fast you can get through the levels to get as many upgrades as possible, but every world lasts 5 minutes. So it seems like a normal mode speed run would really just consist of you trying to time the last fight to end right when the timer hits 0 so that you can hit the next portal, and trying to just amp yourself up in the meantime to blow through the 2 bosses as fast as possible. But I mean, that's what the one video on this is. It's a speedrun for normal. I mean, I can't knock it. Maybe I'll try to do a normal mode speedrun, see if I can beat the guy's record. But yeah, it definitely seemed like a weird choice to do a speedrun of normal mode rather than hardcore mode, because hardcore mode is the one difficulty where the timer counts up, because it limits your levels and it gives you a set amount of levels you have to go through. So you're more trying to get through levels as fast as you can in a more standardized kind of setup, rather than just, oh, are you gonna, you have 5 minutes, try to get as fat as you can and then blast the hell out of everything. But you know, maybe there's a category for hardcore mode on speedrun.com or something. Maybe I'll see if I can upload this to speedrun.com, and I'll be the world record holder for blood fuel ammo speed hardcore. I doubt it though, honestly, because a lot of times I think speedruns generally have kind of rules like, your speedrun is invalid unless you have launched the game from, unless the video proof you provide launched from the beginning and we saw you select the difficulty. And this video clearly just cuts to me immediately starting the run, because I did one run before this and I died like 7 minutes into it, and I just restarted and I just kept the recording going. So I don't actually have a clip of me choosing hardcore. I'm just following up on my last hardcore loss, so I doubt my run would be valid for a speed run. But yeah, that's basically what you're seeing here is Blood Fuel Ammo Speed. It's a pretty cool game. Doesn't take too long to get pretty familiar with it. I think I have like 4 hours of playtime in it, and this is my like second completion of hardcore. So once you get the kind of rhythm and feel for how the game wants to play, it's not too hard to like just try to like maintain that rhythm and carry things into fights. I guess if I had to give another tip, it would be that if you're able to, try to carry your injectors to the start of other fights, because if you can't start up the fight with an injector, then you're going to have to fight the brunt of all the enemies. And if you get a really small platform, area and all the enemies drop on you immediately and you don't have any injectors to just start launching rockets at them with, you could take some damage. So using injectors to kind of link fights together is also a good strategy. I think this specific area here actually takes me quite a while to get through because I can't find the last couple stragglers. But I think I take a little extra time to kill them even when I do find them because I just want to make sure I'm topped off on my injector and my ammo, so that when I get to the next area, I can immediately pop the injector and get the damage bonuses to kind of thin out the horde a little bit before I go in with the slam, slide, and avoiding, and then building up injectors to go for the rockets again. And that's really all there is to it. It's a pretty neat game. If it looks like fun, it's on Steam for like $10. I recommend giving it a try.